I used to suffer from a lot of depression, shame, and loneliness. On top of that, I experienced a lot of emotional pain from first being in the closet as a gay, queer woman, and then being out of the closet, but having to face a lot of devastating heartbreak over and over again. Eventually, I realized that I don't have to go through all of this alone, and that it's okay to ask for help. In order to ease my suffering, I tried out a lot of things, and I mean a lot. I really experimented with a wide variety of healing modalities and practices, and I documented it all in a resource on my blog, and I will link to that below the video. In a way, all of it was helpful at the time, but there were some things that really propelled me forward that had an amazing impact on my healing journey. And that was definitely practicing the teachings and meditations by Dr. Joe Dispenza. I recently made a video on that, but also doing plant medicine with a shaman in Ecuador, as well as embracing Buddhism early on my journey back in 2012. I also did a lot of Grinberg body therapy, which is amazing. Going to Tony Robbins' Date with Destiny in Florida a few years ago also impacted me profoundly. And yes, also therapy and life coaching. I've worked with 7 different life coaches since 2014 when I first discovered life coaching, and with some of them I only had a few sessions, and with some others I worked with for several months or maybe 6 or 9 months. And with therapy I had a few really unsuccessful attempts when I was a teenager and also in my 20s, which really put me off, and I just kind of thought therapy is not for me, and so I kind of gave up. Until I found my current therapist, who is actually also a life coach. And we've been working together for more than 3 years now. And so in this video, I want to share my learnings and insights from working with therapists and life coaches. I feel like there's still room to normalize therapy and reaching out for professional help. The first thing I realized was, especially in therapy, but also in life coaching, that it's really not about just analyzing my past and judging other people or my parents or victimizing myself, but that it's way more about connecting to my emotions and reparenting myself and taking responsibility for everything that I've felt. I also think that it's not really effective in the long run to just stay on that analytical, rational, superficial level of thought and explaining things and going through your childhood over and over again. Because I think the only thing it does is it will satisfy your mind, but it won't actually go deeper on the level of your heart and soul where the wounding is. My big breakthroughs happened when I realized I needed to acknowledge my feelings and really allow myself to feel them without being scared and embrace them. And once I learned how to properly feel, I was able to actually start healing, because there was just so many suppressed emotions and feelings and so much pain that I never properly felt that wanted my attention over all those years of depression and loneliness and anxiety, but I didn't actually give it the space to. But once I opened up that lid and I realized that it's not scary to feel, that's when the real transformation started. I also had to learn that not everything is black and white. And boy, that wasn't easy to accept. Because I used to think and perceive the world in extremes and polarities and right or wrong and on and off, good and bad. It's all or nothing and always or never. And my inner critic was highly judgmental of others, but also of myself. And that in itself took a lot to change, that inner voice, and to really develop self-love and true self-compassion. And today I know that there's a lot in between, a lot of gray shades, that not everything is just light and dark and good and bad. And that in itself helps me to be less harsh with other people, but also with myself. We have to go places within us that we really don't want to go. and that there is usually a lot of resistance from that part of yourself that tries to protect yourself because it was so wounded maybe a long time ago that it's really difficult to accept the fact that we have to go deep, because in order to get to the other side, there's no way around it. The only way out is through. And a lot of times I would show up to a session with something that I was struggling with. I had no idea where she was gonna take this with me, and a lot of times we would end up in places I had no idea that they existed within me. For a long time I was also very resistant to do inner child work and fully embrace these shadows of mine and blind spots, but eventually I realized that I need to learn how to love my inner child and learn how to reparent it. I need to learn how to accept my shadows and bring them into the light and be okay with that process of just feeling shit for a while before it can get a lot better. Having tried a lot of healing modalities and practices and having done a lot of therapy and coaching and all the things, I eventually realized that healing has to happen on several levels, not just on one. And that was probably one of the reasons why I was put off by a lot of therapy approaches, because they only addressed my mind. And yes, as much as it's important to address that rational level, we have to also work on the energetic level, on the physical level, because we store trauma in our bodies, and we also have to work on the emotional level. And so instead of putting all my expectations on therapy and coaching, I realized that I need to do more work outside of that and do ecstatic dance and holotropic breath work and Grinberg body work sessions and energy healing and all the things, because it would eventually be a package of approaches that would help me get through all of this. And let's not forget meditation and yoga, two things that have accompanied me since the very beginning that I started my healing and personal development journey. I also learned that therapy and coaching are very different, but they can also be very similar. And I think that there's a lot of judgment from each side about the other, which I don't think is necessary, because I think that they both have their places. And I personally don't think that one is better than the other. For me, it was really the combination of both in the end that worked. And I do think though that life coaching just on its own couldn't have fully replaced therapy for me. But I've also worked with life coaches, and I know of other life coaches who go a lot deeper than that, and sometimes the lines are a little blurry. It took me quite a few therapists to find the therapist that was right for me. So please go out and date a lot of therapists and be picky as you're going out to search for the one. But once I found her, she got me, you know, she really understands me. She's in a level of spirituality that I really appreciate. She works with very different modalities, and very much so, especially on the somatic level. And we've done work together over the years. It's just been amazing, and I'm just intensely grateful. One thing I really had to learn, and that was a hard one, and that was patience. Because oh my god, this whole process of healing and transformation, it takes time. And as I said, I've done a lot of stuff since my sort of initiation back in 2012, when I was just kind of thrown onto my path. I just wouldn't want to accept in the beginning that it would have to take a long time. I thought I could figure it all out in a year or two and that would be it. Well, I was a little wrong. It's taken me a few years longer to overcome some of my biggest struggles and causes of suffering. And sometimes I actually don't see how far I've come, and that's why working with someone for 3 years on such a regular basis is just so awesome, because she reminds me, you know, she's seen me go through all of this for 3 years, and she reminds me how far I've come and how I've transformed over all these years. And lastly, another learning is that there is always more. More to look at, more that wants healing. The inner work, it doesn't just suddenly stop. It's not like one day you had your last session and then it's finished for the rest of your life. Last year I took several months break from working with my therapist / life coach, and right now we don't have weekly sessions, or not even bi-weekly. Maybe sometimes it's once a month and sometimes maybe every 3 weeks. But we continue to do the work, and there's always more that wants to be uncovered. Life will keep on throwing challenges at you, and even though I have a lot more tools today, it's still awesome to have my therapist and to be able to have sessions with her and go deep on, family issues, or when I go through stuff in my relationship or in my business, because it's not like we will ever stop growing as human beings. And I think that is the beauty of life. There's always more to learn, more to deal with, new challenges, and that's why I appreciate life so much as well. Because in the end, my friends, life never happens to you, it happens for you. And so I'm really glad and grateful that I have all these learnings, and yeah, wow, what a journey. But no matter what, the work has been worth it. And I can just highly recommend you go out, you find your therapist, your life coach, you do the inner work. You can go and check out my resource on my blog. It's linked to below. And yeah, this is it. If you have any questions or you want to share your learnings from doing therapy or life coaching, then please do so in the comments. Come and follow me on Instagram at conni.biesalski and also Conni Creates. And also, if you don't receive my weekly emails yet, then come and subscribe. Thank you so much. I really hope this video was helpful for you, and I'll see you in the next one.